Welcome to Hotel Copter Explainer, where we are dealing with this question of drugs, where we are telling you that the laws in Kenya are more harsher. If Maduro was arrested and brought to Kenya, the punishments are heavier than the punishments found in America. Were you aware that that is the position? Now we are telling you that we need to teach you that it is better you are captured and taken to America to face trial than facing trial in this country. The laws are worse. Today, this episode looks at land under narcotics. The private land, if it can be used to produce narcotics. Do you own land? And are you in control of what that land, the people you have given that land to plant, what they are using that land for? Many Kenyans have land, but they don't know exactly what that land is being utilized. Wakili Danstan Omari brings you what does the law talk about issue of cultivating narcotics on your land or somebody else cultivating them on your land. Section 6 of the Narcotics Act provides that any person who cultivates or who is an owner or an occupier permits the premises to be used for the purpose of cultivation. If you are the owner of land and you permit that land to be used for cultivation, and you have found that you allowed somebody to cultivate, shall be guilty of an offense and liable to a fine of 250,000 shillings or 3 times the market value of the prohibited plant, whichever is great. So, if your land is 10 acres and there is prohibited drugs being planted there, the value of that prohibited drug that will be found, let's say it is around 50 million, then you will have to pay a fine of 50 million times 3. It will be 150 million shillings as fine. 2, or to imprisonment for a term not exceeding 20 years, or to both the fine and imprisonment. Men, ladies, be very, very careful when you own land. Ensure that you don't consent for that land to be utilized and you supervise what is being planted on that land. 2, you have been convicted of as the owner of the land. Section 7 says that land will be forfeited to the state plus the cultivated plants. Do you know the punishment? The land will go to the government. Maduro's land is not going to be confiscated and taken to the Americans. In Kenya here, the land you will be forfeited and taken to government. So, this is private land. If it is found that that land, whether the land was utilized, that land will be forfeited. But the law says, suppose this person was cultivating the land and the land was leased. The land is not yours. You have leased your land. You're in Nairobi doing very good work as an advocate, as a journalist. You're in the diaspora working. You lease land to a tenant who goes and plants cannabis sativa there. Who goes and involves to turn that land into a factory to produce drugs? What does the law say? The law will not punish you. The burden is on you to show that you had not given any consent. If you show documents of leasing the land to a third party, it is the third party who has planted drugs there. You will go show that you leased the land. But the question is, how many of you, how many of us have a document to show that you leased this land to somebody? What Omari is telling you and what Court Helicopter is telling you, every time somebody leases your land, enter into a sale agreement. So that if he plants bangi there, you will say he was there with the license. If you don't have any document showing that the cocaine was there, normally the drug peddlers know the police are coming, they run away. Remember, we talked about keeping the register. Keep also lease agreements that this person, you have leased him the land because you're in the US, because you are in Nairobi, because you are practicing law, you have no time to go farming. Keep that record. Once you have it, you walk to court and say, I had leased this land to a person called Mary. These are the documents. So the government will forfeit the cannabis. That crop will be taken to the government, but the land will not be forfeited. But if you have no document to prove who was the one who planted there and he planted without your authority, the land will be forfeited by the state. 3. Suppose the land belongs to government. Government land is leased. If you go to where government has a lot of land, the Ukambani area, the Maasai land area, you go to the Mount Kenya region, you go to the forests, government leases land to people. For example, in my Mount Kenya forest, the government will give you land. The Mau forest, government will lease you land to do farming. All these areas, you plant there cannabis sativa. It is captured. The government land will not be forfeited because already it belongs to government. But the plants, the drugs that you have planted there shall be forfeited to the state. It moves on to say, suppose the land that cocaine was planted is under a mortgage. You have taken money from KCB Bank or Cooperative Bank or Equity Bank. Then you buy land. That land is registered together with the bank. So it is jointly owned with the bank. That land is found to be involved in drugs. The land will not be forfeited, but the lease will be forfeited and the bank will recover their land because they were not part and parcel of the transaction of planting drugs. If the holder of the mortgage, if it's the bank, and the bank is aware that that land is going to be planted drugs, if it is a Shylock who gave you money, and the Shylock knows you are going to plant the drugs there, the law says they shall forfeit that mortgage. The land will be taken by government. If the consent, consent does not mean written consent. If they knew that that land is being used for drugs and they did not take an action, they will forfeit that mortgage. How do you avoid losing your land? Section 8 talks about the responsibility of the owner of the land to inform the police officer. It is the duty of the owner of the land to inform the area OCS or the area chief, the area public, that the officers of government. If you go and find, for example, people went over Christmas to their land, home, did you go up to the river down to check whether cannabis sativa is being planted? If you go and find there are drugs planted, it is your duty to go and report immediately to the police. Failure to report means you have the knowledge and you do not report is against Section 8 of the Drugs and the Narcotics Drugs Act. Your land will be forfeited. But if you report, the culprit will be arrested. Okay, the drugs will be uprooted, they'll be confiscated to the state, and your land will be left secure. So I'm addressing to people who own land. You don't know what those people they are doing. It is your duty to occasionally walk through all your land to confirm that there are no drugs planted there. And if the drugs are planted there under Section 8, you have a responsibility to inform the law enforcement officers. Then we have, if the land is under lease, under Article 10, it is necessary. It is necessary to plant to also report that issue. So the question, we have dealt with the punishments provided. That's why I told you, Kenyan law is more harsher than the American law. What does Section 9 tell you? This is now where it is nerve chilling. It is scaring. It is, my friend, we should get an extinguisher to deal with Section 9. What does the law say after conviction? Publication of the notice. It says, as soon as one has been convicted, the court convicting shall publish in a newspaper circulating in Kenya and in the Kenya Gazette the following. 1. The particulars of the person convicted. If you are convicted of drugs, your name will be published in the newspaper. Your name shall be published in the Kenya Gazette. Imagine Danstan Omari's name being published on the Kenya Gazette. The whole everybody is there. We have 3 leading newspapers in this country: The Nation, The Standard, and The Star. Your name is going to be published there. That is the first thing. That's why I told you, the Gen Zs, the Kenyans, this law is harsher than the law that we are seeing in America. Number 2, the particulars of the land on which the prohibited plant was being cultivated. If your land is LR44, they will publish the particulars of that person who owns the land. The details of the landowner, the company that owns the land, the box number, the telephone number, the title deed number, and the location. 3, the relevant particulars relating to the offense. They will publish what happened, how many kgs of bangi was found, and all those things. D, the date fixed for the hearing of an application for an order, the name and address and the nature of the rights of every person who, according to the information available in court, and that land will be surrendered to the state. Why do you want your land published? Why do you want your particulars published? The law here is very, very hostile. I know many of you didn't know that. Keep watching the land that is yours. Keep watching the land that you have been given to manage. It doesn't only apply to those who own, it also applies to those who manage the land. Keep watching the properties that you own, the rental houses, the Airbnb that you have. Keep watching who uses it and how that is being used. So, Section 11 gives the government the power to enter any land. Any land, the government cannot be denied access. It says the power of the police to enter without a search warrant. For drugs, I know you'll be locking yourself in the house and asking, do you have a search warrant? Under Section 11, the police or any government agent officer will enter your premise, will enter your land without a search warrant. So any information they have, and that is why drugs, narcotics are intelligence-based cases. Unlike the other cases where you are saying, get me a search warrant, get me an arrest warrant. The Drugs and Narcotics Act does not go that line. After the conviction, where do the drugs go? Very many people remember when President Moi put on fire a lot of tasks worthy billions of money, and Kenyans were mad about it. Where do the drugs go? The drugs under Section 12 says the court has the power to order the destruction of all the confiscated drugs. So the court will order all the drugs to be confiscated. And that tells you why at every other time you see drugs being confiscated, being destroyed under the supervision of the court, the Inspector General of Police with the relevant arms of government preside over the destruction of those drugs. We gave you an option that opium can be used as a drug, a medicinal drug. And the people celebrated. I was called by several thousands of people saying, now, me, I'm taking it as a drug. The police will never arrest me. That is not the position. Let us see provisions written to certain prescriptions. In Section 13, if the drugs that you have been given by a medical doctor who is a dentist or who is a medical doctor or a veterinary doctor for the treatment of animals, if any person contravenes the prescriptions given by the doctor, you shall be guilty of an offense and you shall be fined a fine of not less than 250,000 shillings or to imprisonment for a term not exceeding 10 years. What does this mean? The doctor has given you your drug. You get that drug, you don't use it. You go and sell it to somebody to take the drug. You take it, you don't use it, you go and give somebody as a gift. You take it, you go and use it to raise a beer or a soda of somebody. You will have to face the music. You'll have to pay a fine of not less than 250,000 shillings or imprisonment to a term exceeding 10 years. Section 14 is interesting. This is about medical treatment still. A patient is on a drug of opium. The doctor prescribing him, this one is Dr. Mary Wamboi. He has a dosage of 2 milligrams a day. He goes to another doctor called Kinyanjui. Kinyanjui prescribes for him because the body shows he needs it. He has another 2 grams from Kinyanjui. He goes to another doctor. He collects 10 grams in a day. From doctors, he goes to sell. He becomes now a peddler. He becomes now a seller. 2, this person commits an offense. What does the law say? Here it is. Any person in the course of treatment for any physical, mental, or mental disorder is applied with any narcotic drug or a prescription by a medical doctor without disclosing that fact receives additional narcotic drugs from any other medical practitioner shall be guilty of an offense and liable to a fine of not less than 50,000 shillings. And this is the toughest punishment here. He will pay a fine of 50,000 shillings. And in addition, mark my words, this man has a lot of prescriptions from different doctors. The doctors don't know. He'll pay a fine of not less than 50,000 shillings, and in addition to an imprisonment for a term not exceeding 10 years. Why is the law saying this person, whether he pays the fine, he must be jailed? The reason is he cannot stop walking from doctor to another doctor to another doctor. So you automatically, you go in for 10 years. Mark that. If you are on a treatment of opium, don't go to Kitale, get a prescription there. You come to Nakuru, get a prescription there. You go to Kisumu, get a prescription there for the purpose of selling. 10 years minimum in prison plus a fine of 10,000 shillings. What if it is the doctor? What if it is the doctor who has been convicted? The doctor is the one who is misusing his licenses. The veterinary doctor says, I want to treat these cows with opium. He says, the dentist, I want these enough drugs from the pharmacy because I have 20 patients. I have got to uproot their teeth. If he's a mental doctor, he wants this amount of money, he sells that. If a medical practitioner is convicted of this offense, his name, 1, shall be removed from the register. He will not practice medicine in this country, and he will be convicted and pay the fine of not less than what the law says, but he will be barred. His name will be struck out the register of doctors. When lawyers misbehave with serious offenses, we are struck off the register of Law Society of Kenya. That is how bad the law is. Then in section 16, we have the board that deals with how to deal with that issue. Suppose you obstruct a police officer. You obstruct a law enforcement officer who wants to do his job. What does the law say? In section 17, any person who delays, if you delay the police from doing their job. 2, if you obstruct the police from doing their job. 3, if you destroy or mutilate any exhibit. You have seen people when they are arrested. Drugs. Whenever they are arrested, they swallow the drugs. After they have swallowed the drugs, the police take you to hospital. Once the police take you to the hospital, they take a CT scan. The content in your stomach, the drugs are there. Those drugs are normally pellets. They keep you until you go to the long core. When you go to the long core, the pellets come out. Many people have been arrested attempting to swallow the drugs. Many people have tried to erase or throw the exhibit. They have tried to destroy the documents, the records that are there. Mutilate of the documents. That is an offense. 5, you refuse to produce or you conceal. You try to hide. You hear the police are coming, you remove the things and throw them out of the window. Then you say, they were never found in my possession. The police are chasing you, you remove it from your bag, you, as a lady, you throw your bag away. Then you say that you never found it in my possession. Those are the defenses that you raise. Lastly, if you refuse to comply with any lawful order of the police, stop. Open your car boot. Have you ever, as you're driving drivers, the police tell you open your booth? Get out, let us search your car. It is lawful. It is lawful. They don't need a search warrant when they're looking for drugs. They can storm in your house. They can storm in your car. They can, ladies, don't be sensitive. They will open your bag. Men, they will check anything if they are looking for the drugs. Suppose you are found with this offense. If you'll go in for a fine of not less than 100,000 shillings or to imprisonment for a term not exceeding 5 years or both. Now, this is about the doctors. We have talked the doctors' punishment. We have talked of civilians. What about the police officers who are involved in drug trafficking? Law enforcement officers, your area chief, your area assistant chief, the police officers, those involved, the DCI, the traffic policemen who are involved in drugs. What does the law provide for if they are found that they are involved in drugs? 1, if convicted, they will get a fine of not less than 20 million shillings and an imprisonment for a term of not less than 20 years. So, you have seen how the law is very strict on police officers who are involved either in assisting drugs to be there. Then, what about those who refuse to furnish information or to produce evidence? You have been called to come and give evidence and you don't want. You know very well Omari is a drug peddler, more serious than Maduro, and you have that evidence, but you refuse to produce that evidence. That is the final thing that we look at. It is section 18. If you are found with that, you'll be convicted, you'll be fined a fine of 100,000 shillings or to imprisonment for a term not exceeding 5 years or both. Lastly, what does the law say about forfeiture? We shall be looking at the final episode on what the law talks about forfeiture. That is from section 19 onwards. Wakili Danstan Omari always brings it as it is. As I've told you, the law of drugs in Kenya is stricter, is heavy, is bigger, is more more dangerous than the American law. Keep watching and keep away from the drugs. Wakili Danstan Omari will want his followers on helicopter not to be arrested, not to furnish. We have told you, inhaling, smoking, taking shisha with bangi is a criminal offense under the narcotics. The DCI Subarus are likely to pick you. Keep watching. Wish you a merry and happy new year 2026.